don't know about you, but I absolutely love cookies. I am a proper cookie monster. So today I thought I'd show you how to make gluten-free white chocolate and raspberry cookies. It's probably my favorite combination of all cookie combinations, but every cookie is amazing. But I just love these. They're really seasonal at the moment, with raspberries being something that we have in our garden. So we just can pick them and put them in cookies. I mean, you don't have to just eat them as they are. There's so many things you can do with raspberries, but the best thing is white chocolate chip and raspberry cookies. So this recipe can also very easily be made dairy-free. It can also quite easily be made vegan and low FODMAP as well. So it's super versatile, and it's also versatile because if you didn't have raspberries, for instance, you could probably use strawberries. You don't have to put the raspberries in. You could just make white chocolate chip cookies, or you could swap it to milk chocolate and raspberry cookies, or just milk chocolate chip cookies. There's so many things you can do with this recipe, and it's really, really simple to make. There's very, very few ingredients, and you'll just have really delicious cookies super quickly. And another good thing about it is that you can freeze the dough, and so you can prepare it in advance and then cook them when you want to eat them, which, I mean, cookies on tap, does that make sense? Yeah, you can basically have cookies on tap. You can have cookies whenever you want. If you want to follow along or just want to check out the recipe written down, then I will link it in the description below. But before I show you how I make them, I will show you what's in them. So let's get on with the ingredients. Right, so as I said, ingredients are really, really simple with this. Firstly, we've got some gluten-free plain flour / all-purpose flour. I've got some melted butter. If you are dairy-free or vegan, you can use vegan butter / dairy-free spread or whatever. You're melting it, so it doesn't really matter what it is. I've got 1 egg in this recipe, so if you are vegan, you can very easily use an egg replacer. You can use a flax egg, you can use whatever sort of egg replacement you would like to use. I've got vanilla extract. I've then got some bicarbonate of soda. I have got sugar. I've got 2 different types of sugar here. I've got caster sugar, granulated sugar is fine too, and light brown sugar. I've got some freeze-dried raspberries here. These are just sort of a decoration kind of thing, and I don't tend to use them that much, but I found some in the cupboard, so I've got them here for that. I don't tend to use them as much because they're really expensive how many you get, but if you've got them, they do make things look kind of pretty, so that's why I'd use them. I've got white chocolate chips here, which is just glorious and the best. And then I've got, obviously, the most important ingredient really, except the white chocolate chips, is the raspberries. Now, these raspberries are fresh raspberries, but I've had them in the freezer for a little bit because I find that making them with slightly frozen raspberries is better, because otherwise they squish and they'll just change the colour of the dough more to being really pink if you're not careful. You can obviously use fresh raspberries that aren't frozen. I've done that many times and they taste great. You can use frozen raspberries as well, so whatever raspberries you've got, you pretty much can use them, but these ones are just slightly frozen, only like for about an hour, so they're just a bit more firm, and I'm going to put them back in the freezer until I'm ready to use them in the recipe. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need. So yeah, let's go on with it. Okay, so we're going to start off by adding our sugar and our melted butter to the bowl. You want your melted butter to be slightly cool at this point, not boiling hot, and then we'll just mix them together until they're really combined well, kind of stiff, if you get me. Like, I'll show you. Okay, so the butter and the sugar are nicely combined now. You can see that they're sort of more of a, I don't know, almost like a soft paste. You don't want to just do this really quickly and be like, oh, they're combined, because it'll be too soft and the mixture just doesn't work then. So you need to definitely allow the butter to cool before you add it, quite a bit anyway. And then it should look a bit like this, and this should be how it is before you add the eggs. So I'm now going to add my egg and some vanilla extract and then mix it all together. You might see that I'm doing this all by hand. You can use an electric hand mixer, you could use a stand mixer if you wanted. I just enjoy when I can do anything by hand because there's less washing up. So when you're doing it by hand, you just need to give it a little bit more welly, but obviously if you really fancy it, you can use something electric instead. Okay, so once that's nice and smooth, like this, then it's time to add your flour and your bicarbonate of soda. It is quite a lot of flour, like a lot, so you really need to mix it thoroughly to make sure that there's no like little pockets of flour or any sort of dry bits. But once you've mixed it, you'll see that it becomes a really, really nice cookie dough. Okay, so there's your cookie dough. As you can see, it's fairly soft, but we're going to be putting it in the fridge to chill it and firm it up a bit, but it's not runny in any way. So it's squidgy, but it's fine. So it shouldn't be sort of like cake mixture at this point. It should be firm enough that you can sort of do this in your hands. Not that we're going to at the moment, but I'm just trying to show you because you need to have the right texture at this point if you want to continue. Next up, we'll add the white chocolate chips and mix them in so that they're evenly dispersed. Now, next up we want to mix in our raspberries. We want to do this really carefully. As you can see, I've cut them into pieces because I don't put that much raspberry in it. But if you cut them, they go a bit further. So we want to mix them in, but do it so much more gently than you've ever done anything before because you don't want them to split too much. I mean, they'll break up a little bit just because the dough is quite firm, but you don't want to do it too much or it will just sort of leak everywhere. Also, another thing that you could add at this point is you could add some of these, but I generally prefer to just sprinkle them on top. But you can definitely add them at this point if you are going to use them. As I said, you don't have to. And you can add more raspberries than I've said. You can add less raspberries than I've said. Don't go too far with the raspberries, obviously, because it will just get a bit wet. So keep it minimal in a way. But this amount of raspberries goes quite a long way. And there you go. I was very, very careful when I added my raspberries not to mix it too much, not to go crazy. But you can see still some of the raspberry has sort of mixed into the dough and made it a little bit pinky. That's completely fine. I mean, it's just a visual thing and it actually looks quite nice, but you definitely don't want to mix it too much. And that's where sort of frozen or semi-frozen raspberries comes in really handy because they just don't break up quite as quickly. Especially on a hot day, I'd really, really recommend that. Or when you have really sort of really almost overripe raspberries. So now that that's done, you can see the dough is quite firm in a way, but not firm enough. So we're going to cover this with cling film and place it into the fridge for around an hour. You could put it in the freezer for around half an hour, but I'm just going to pop this in the fridge for an hour and then it'll be firm enough for us to roll it into balls and cook it in the oven. Oh, also, yes, you could roll this into balls now and then freeze them in balls, but I find with the raspberries especially that it's much easier to chill the whole mixture and then roll it when it's all cold, because otherwise you get raspberry hands and it goes everywhere. So yeah, chill it as a lump for about an hour. You don't want to chill it as a lump for ages and ages and ages because then you won't be able to roll them very easily and you might just have to let it warm up a bit. But if you do it for around an hour, should be perfect. Okay, so my cookie dough is now completely chilled and nice and firm, so it's time to roll it into balls. So I'm going to get my weighing scales and I'm going to weigh each one so it's an even weight. I usually do it about 55 grams, but I'm going to just judge it and I'll let you know how heavy each ball is. But ideally you want to make them nice and even. And you do want to be a bit careful with these because you don't want to roll them too much because the raspberry obviously will just go into your hands a bit. Another thing that I always like is to have a few bits of chocolate chip and raspberry on top of each ball, because otherwise when you cook the cookie you won't be able to see any white chocolate or raspberry and you won't have a clue what the cookie is, what flavour it is, even though I guess you kind of will because you made them yourself, but other people won't, and it's nice for them to have a good visual look as well. So yeah, I'm going to roll these now and I'm going to put them onto a baking tray. I'm not going to put too many on because they will flatten out. It's better to do them in batches or do them on a couple of trays so that you don't get all like merged cookies, because that is just like the worst. Okay, let's roll some balls. So here is all my cookie dough rolled into balls. Look very nice and pink and pretty. A bit messy to make just because of the fresh raspberries, but it's not really, to be honest. It's just more so than if you didn't have the fresh raspberries, but then it wouldn't be so tasty. So as I said, I would let you know the weight of each of these. These were about, it's a really random weight, 58 grams each I did them. So I did that so that they'd be nice and even. I haven't rolled these as much into balls. As you'll see, some of them are a bit slightly odd shapes. You can sort of try and form them more into balls, but you don't want to roll them, as I said, because then the raspberry will go all over your hands, which isn't what you ideally want. So I am now obviously not going to cook them all on this baking tray. I just put them there until I was ready. I'm going to split them and put them onto 2 different baking trays because they'll need some room to spread. So on this one, I'll probably put 6 maybe, and then 6 on another one. And then I think there's 14 here, so a couple for later maybe. But yeah, definitely spread them out. Never think that your tray is, never think that you can fit loads on a tray because you can't. They'll spread. So I'm now going to place these into my preheated oven at 160 degrees C fan, which is 180 degrees C, which I believe now is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I never seem to get that right or have any idea, but I remember this time. So yeah, it's as simple as that. So let's put these babies in the oven so that they can come out, we can let them cool, and we can actually get to eating them, because that's all I want to do with cookies. I want to eat them. So that is all my cookies out of the oven now. These ones have been out a little bit longer because I cooked them in batches so that I cooked them all on the middle shelf for the same amount of time, and I didn't have too many on a sheet. So these ones are still cooling a little bit. So these ones they've literally just come out. They're gonna cool on this baking tray for about 10 minutes or so until they're firmer. And then I will use this to transfer them onto here. And then they will finish cooling completely on here. You don't want to take them off before that because they'll literally fall to pieces, but after a few minutes, nice and firm and delicious. So very shortly, I'll be able to eat these. But for now, I need to be patient and let these completely cool. I have some very, very good news. The cookies are cooled. They are ready to show you, /eat, yeah, look at that. So we've got loads of white chocolate chips, the raspberry, just soft, squidgy cookie. It's like crisp, but squidgy. It's like everything that you want. Everything that you want in a cookie is in my hand. I just keep wanting to show you because this cookie is a lot better to look at than my face. But yeah, I guess you don't want to just look at them. You'd kind of quite like to make them. Well, I quite like you to make them. So if you want to, as I said, you can follow along with this video, but the recipe is in the description below, all written down nicely. There'll be a link to it, which you can go and check out. And yeah, this is just like one of the best. I haven't made these in a while, so I'm just really happy that I've made them and can enjoy them. So yeah, gluten-free. I've told you how you can make them dairy-free. I've told you how that you can make them vegan and low FODMAP and everything. So they're for everyone. They're for all of us to enjoy together. And literally no one will know they're gluten-free, I promise you that. Perfect this time of year as well, because we all have lots of raspberries, but also perfect any time of year because, as I said, you can use frozen raspberries. So it's a win-win for every person in the world all year round. What could be better? Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like this, then click up here to see how to make my gluten-free banana bread, and click up here to see how you can make my gluten-free brownies. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!